and welcome back to another episode of the Idiots Football Show. I'm your host, Zach. Glad to be back. We're going to get right into it, but I got two new idiots to introduce. I'll introduce idiot number one on my left. Nick, how you doing?
What's up, Zach? Thanks for having me.
Of course. And idiot number two on my right. Jack, how you doing?
How's it going? Professional Giants fan and Isaiah Hodgins enthusiast here.
Fair enough. Now, we're going to get right into this episode, so I'll give you a quick breakdown on what's going to be happening this show. So first, we're going to go over each of the 16 games this week, whether we talk about them in depth or kind of just blow past them. We're going to see what's kind of going on, what's important, what's not important, how it's going to shake out for the playoffs. And then each one of us here, we're going to pick a Super Bowl favorite, so a team that's, pretty highly regarded. Looks like they're going to be a team that could probably make and win the Super Bowl. So, we're all going to pick one of those, and then we're all going to pick a Super Bowl underdog. So this is a team that's, more on the fringe of the playoffs. Maybe they barely won their division, or maybe they ended up just squeaking in the wild cards. We're really going to see what's going to happen here moving forward, what our picks are and how we're liking this and how we think the NFL playoffs are going to shake out. So, we're going to get started here. The first game we'll talk about is the Chiefs-Raiders. Now, this game doesn't do much, it's going to be really a nothing game as long as the Chiefs win. The Chiefs should have no issue beating Jarrett Stidham. I don't know, I think it should be a nice cakewalk for the Chiefs.
The past few weeks, the Chiefs have not looked like the Chiefs they looked like at the beginning of the season. That's just my opinion. And the Raiders just almost beat the 49ers, considered one of the best defenses. So it was, I don't know. I don't think it's definitely a Chiefs win.
It'll definitely be interesting because with this Chiefs game, obviously it's for the number one seed in the AFC. And granted, we just saw the Bengals-Bills game get canceled, a game that could have had a lot of playoff implications for that first seed, especially with the Chiefs' loss coming up this week, if possible. But I really am very curious how this is going to shake out. I have a feeling Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, they're going to be able to get the job done. I know they're playing in Vegas, but that's pretty much like playing a home game because I feel like not a lot of people are showing up to those games in Vegas and LA. It's normally just a crowd of whatever the other team's colors are. So it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. Nick, you got any thoughts?
The Chiefs, they're, the number one seed and whatever. But Jarrett Stidham, like Jack said, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns against the number one ranked defense in the NFL. I think the Chiefs will end up winning the game, but I don't think it'll be easy.
All right, fair enough.
Agreed.
So we'll move on to game number 2 here, as we just discussed game number 1. So we're gonna get right into the Titans versus the Jags. Now this game is in Jacksonville. I think it's going to be a very exciting game. Obviously, this is the second of the Saturday slated games. My big thing here that I'm excited about is I really do think that we're going to see Doug Peterson back in the playoffs. I think we've seen Jacksonville, especially as of late, really become a much better team. We've seen Trevor Lawrence really develop, really become, come into his own a little bit and really start to be that highly, highly ranked draft prospect that we all compared him to. Like guys like Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. We really saw how special this guy was coming out of school, and we're finally going to get to see it. I think, especially with Josh Dobbs taking over the helm for the Titans and really just a lack of identity at the quarterback position, I think we're going to get to see Jacksonville have a lot of opportunity this week and really just take the reins and win their division and even more so be a winning team. Now, this is the first time in a long time, probably since that 2013 Blake Bortles season, they've had a winning season.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty good for the fans of Jacksonville to finally experience a little bit of winning. It'd be nice to watch them, get into the playoffs again, especially as an exciting NFL team.
Interesting little fact about that game: the Titans are on a 6-game losing streak, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are on a 4-game winning streak. So that is just, I think the Jaguars are going to win easily.
Hey, momentum can carry. Momentum can really be a dangerous thing, especially coming this late in the year. Very much so. I agree. There's a lot to be said. It's gonna be a very interesting game, and that's all we're gonna have. We're gonna have a great game on Saturday. Nick, you have any thoughts?
I think the Jags are gonna win easy. That's that. Josh Dobbs, he's better than Malik Willis, but not enough to win the game.
Interesting take. Better than Malik Willis. I know he's a very young, really, unaccomplished quarterback as of right now in the NFL. A guy who had great college success. You think he's, do you see Malik Willis kind of developing, becoming anything in the near future, or do you think he's going to end up being maybe a lifelong backup, a guy who never really is able to take the reins of an NFL franchise?
I think, all right, this might be a hot take. I think Malik Willis' ceiling is a backup version of RG3. I think this quarterback class was just very weak, outside of Kenny Pickett, all of these guys were first-round projections and then ended up going third, fourth round with like Matt Corral, Sam Howell, all those guys. So I think, this year's quarterback class not as great as the upcoming one, and if he doesn't turn up his play soon, in next season, I think it'll be over for him.
I'm going to be honest with you. This previous quarterback class was very unappealing, so I have a feeling that we're going to see the Titans kind of walk away from Ryan Tannehill, maybe look towards a newer, more improved option, something that's better for their team, especially if they can walk into another good receiver with Treylon Burks and maybe add another guy to that receiving core to help bolster how good Derrick Henry's been.
Right.
Going back to talking about the quarterback class of this year, I don't think we've seen enough from all of them to make an assumption on if they're going to be good or not in the future.
No, I mean, that's a fair observation. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, I gave Nick a little bit of an on-the-spot question right there, really just to kind of see where he was at, what he might be thinking, what just an idea of what fans might be thinking of, a guy like Malik Willis, a guy who had a lot of draft hype.
I personally also don't think Malik Willis, but...
No, I very much agree with that statement.
We haven't seen Corral.
We also haven't seen Sam Howell.
We haven't seen Sam Howell,
who
we are going to see this week.
Yeah, we'll get to him later in the episode. That'll be an interesting talking point. And I'm sure this draft will come up again. So, if you guys had to pick a winner of this game, who do you think's going to win? Personally, I have my I'm going the Jags here. I think the Jaguars got it. I think they're going to walk into the playoffs nicely.
100%.
Yep, Jags.
Very nice. All right, so now we're going to move on to our next game. We're going to see the Browns take on the Steelers. Now, I'm pretty sure, guys, that the Steelers have already locked. Actually, have they locked up a spot?
No, they need Miami to lose to the Jets, and they need Buffalo to beat the Patriots, and they need to beat Cleveland.
Okay. Thank you. I actually do appreciate that. What's it called? I don't know about the Steelers. I have a feeling they're going to be able to get it done against Cleveland. Now, granted, these are two teams that are kind of neck and neck in the standings right now. Obviously, we've seen the return of Deshaun Watson really. I wouldn't say energize this team. It doesn't seem like they're any different. This guy's, a guy who they paid a gajillion dollars to. What was it, $235 million over 5 years?
All guaranteed, too.
Oh, my God. They gave him the Kirk Cousins treatment. But you know what? I'd be interested to see if he can improve in this next game and how it's going to be for the Browns going forward. I mean, obviously they have a lot of potential with a guy like Deshaun Watson at the helm. A guy, although he hasn't played in 2 years, is probably one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL at this point, in a league that's seemingly depleted of quarterbacks. Now, I don't know about you guys, but do you guys think the Steelers are going to really be able to get it done here? Really, how's this game going to shake out?
I think, personally, that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, and I don't think this is going to be his first. Also, I don't think professional woman respecter Deshaun Watson is going to be able to get it done. He hasn't been getting it done.
Professional woman respecter Deshaun Watson really has not been able to get the job done. And I very much see where you're coming from here, It's something that I'm kind of looking at, and I can go, you know what, I don't think they're going to end up making the playoffs here. But what I will say is that I really can see them pulling it out and having Mike Tomlin, move on to another winning season, his 10th in a row, which is, beyond respected as a coach. Earns a lot of respect there.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, I wouldn't say they've been hot recently, but they've been getting stuff done. They look like a competent offense. I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game at all. It'll be more of a defensive game between these two, but I think the Steelers end up winning the game. And, they don't really have, a control of their own destiny, but when Buffalo's playing New England and Miami without Tua is playing the Jets, I think there's a way for the Steelers to sneak into the playoffs.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Now, I think they're going to win, but I don't think that the Dolphins are going to lose against the Jets, but that's a whole other thing. So I don't think the Steelers are going into the playoffs either way.
All right, very interesting. I think they're gonna win this game, but just not make the playoffs, just fall short. So now we're gonna come down to another big AFC North matchup here. Probably one of the biggest games of the season, and this is gonna be the Bengals versus the Ravens. And I believe this is for. What is this game for the divisional ranking?
This will be for the division, yep.
Okay,
and Lamar's status is still in question. He hasn't played in, I want to say, 6 games or so.
The Ravens without Lamar, obviously we've seen them with John Harbaugh really actually be, they've been able to win games. And, have they played great? No. I would argue that they've played down to their competition. every single game they play. They consistently play down to their competition. But you know what, though? They've been able to eke out games like the 16-14 win against the Steelers, the 10-9 win against the Broncos, the what's it called? The 17-9 win against the Falcons. I mean, granted, I know they don't have Lamar, but being able to win some of those games was really, 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 truly helped, the Ravens actually get to the position they are today. But all being said, the Bengals probably have one of the most explosive offenses in the league, arguably top 3. This is a team where when they're fully clicking, it's hard to stop. I mean, between Jamar, T, Joe, and what's it called? And even Tyler Boyd, I mean, this team has been able to be effective and get it done. Personally, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I have a feeling that we're going to watch the Ravens kind of just fall apart, even, with or without Lamar. I don't think he's going to be the X factor in this game, a guy who hasn't played in several weeks, a guy who really hasn't been seemingly making a huge difference for his team when he was playing. I mean, and I think that's because of the lack of receivers. But, I have a feeling we're going to watch the Bengals walk away with the win here, take the division, and, really move into that high playoff seeding.
It's interesting because the last time they met, the Ravens won by 2 points, 19-17. And Jamar was not playing at that point.
And I believe Lamar was.
Yes, so it's going to be a completely different story here. And the Ravens were home last time. Bengals are home. I think that makes a difference. I think Bengals are taking this game easily.
I agree. Yeah, I think the first matchup, that was when the Bengals started the season off kind of slow. And they've been red hot as of the last couple weeks. So I got to agree with you guys. Have the Bengals.
All right. So we'll move on to our next game, a game that really doesn't matter. We'll get through this one pretty quickly. It's going to be the Minnesota Vikings versus the Chicago Bears. Now, obviously, Justin Fields is not playing in this game as per NFL sources. This is a guy who makes the Bears actually a competitive team, and without him, they have no chance of winning this game. This game means nothing. They're playing a team like the like the Vikings, a team who's really seemingly been a huge fraud their entire season, a team who really is just able to get all the close wins, but
they're going to keep getting away with it too after this.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're going to move on. They're going to end up winning this game, and granted, I don't know. This game doesn't mean much to me. Does it mean much to any of you guys?
I think it's just their second to last game before the end of their season if they play the Giants in the playoffs.
Well, the only reason this matters to me is because of the seeding for the Vikings.
Okay, so they could okay.
This
you
does
are
matter for the Vikings.
Yes, if they need to win this game to obtain the first seed, but that's actually, can they make the first seed?
No,
I don't think they can.
I think
it's just to maintain
Philly
high
has a
seeding.
Tiebreaker over them.
Oh yes, they do, and so does the Cowboys.
Right.
They both kicked the living shit out of the Vikings. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I watched the NFC East take on the Minnesota Vikings, I watched an absolute murder of the Minnesota Vikings. A team that really, when they play top talent, they struggle. When they play a talented offense that can move the ball, and we even saw it against the Detroit Lions,
Even
another
the
game
Giants,
they lost. Yup.
They only won on a 61-yard field goal against them. And the Giants' offense has been, I'm a professional Giants fan, but it's been disgusting, the offense.
And what's the Vikings record? 12-4 right now?
Yes, they are 12.
So through 16 games, they actually have a negative point differential through the entire season. I believe it's negative 16.
You
which
would be
is
correct.
crazy.
It is. That's actually pretty abysmal for a team that's supposed to be as good as they are. To have a negative point differential as a 12-4 win team, it's hard for me to say that this is a team that's going to end up going far and really being a dangerous team. Now, granted, I don't think the Bears beat them. They're a 3-13 team. They're actually, I think they're in competition for last place in the whole league, which would actually obtain them the number 1 overall.
They
pick.
are on a 9-game losing streak.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say the Vikings end up taking this game.
Yeah.
All right. Now we'll move on to another game that actually does matter. That's gonna be the Patriots versus the Bills. Now, I believe if the Bills win this game, they end up being seeded higher than the than the Bengals, right? Because if they lose this game, they end up dropping below.
Yeah.
Now, can the Bills tie the Kansas City Chiefs here? Are they going to be able to move up to that number 1 seed potentially with a win, or is that just out of the picture?
So, the Bills are 12-3, correct?
Yes.
And are the Chiefs also they're 13-3?
Chiefs are 13-3.
Okay, so I think, let's say both teams win. I think the Bills might take it because they have less losses.
That
they'll have
actually
the
would
same
be
amount of
very
wins and less
interesting.
losses. So I'm curious to see what happens. I saw that Goodell is going to meet with all of the owners to see how to settle the discontinuation of the Bills and Bengals game. But yeah, curious to see what happens.
It's gonna be very interesting. We had events that, very very new to the league, something historical for the league, and we pray we never see it again. But it's gonna create an interesting shift in the way that the playoff rankings are gonna be made this year. I think there's something to be said for that. So, so this Patriots Bills game, obviously these are two teams that pretty much top of their division right now, and I have a feeling that the Bills, they're going to carry a lot of momentum into this game, a lot more momentum than I think people think. And I think we're going to end up watching them, kind of wax the Patriots this weekend. I know that's something that you don't normally hear, but I think they're going to end up pretty much handedly beating the Patriots. I don't believe this will be a close game, come the final score. So I have a feeling we're going to watch Josh Allen, play pretty well this week. That's really what my thoughts are. I think we're going to watch him kind of dominate this weekend and really, put up a pretty decent game.
Does this game mean anything for the Patriots?
I believe this does secure a wild card spot for them.
Well, then I'm not so sure because I think.
Actually, no, they're currently above the Dolphins, so there would be playoff implications. Yes.
I don't know how to put this, but the Bills are going to be playing with a lot of emotion, and it could either end up being a really good thing for them or a really bad thing for them. And I think the Patriots are no team to just walk over. They've beaten some pretty good teams this year. So
I'll be honest with you. I am a Bill Belichick truther through and through. I as an Eagle fan, I do respect and really think Bill Belichick. No matter what, you can't count him out. But I have a feeling that this is going to be a game where we're going to watch the momentum swing in the Bills' favor. We're going to watch the Bills, really do their best to absolutely dominate. And this is a game that's going to be in Buffalo, something that's going to be very helpful for them. The fact that they're not going to be in Foxborough with that dangerous Patriots crowd, we're actually going to be able to watch something that's going to be very interesting. Nice home field advantage. I think especially coming off this tragedy, we'll really see the Bills kind of be revitalized at home.
yeah.
Prayers up for DeMar Hamlin.
All right, so now we're going to move on to our next game here. We're going to talk about another AFC East, matchup here. It's going to be the Jets versus the Dolphins. Something that, I think there is something to be said for this game. Obviously, if the Dolphins win, they make the playoffs, but there's going to be no Tua Tagovailoa this week. We're going to end up watching, I believe, Skylar Thompson take over the helm as their starting quarterback
What's
for Miami.
wrong with Teddy Bridgewater?
I believe he is hurt with a hand injury. The last report I heard is that he couldn't grip the football. So it does not look like Teddy Bridgewater is going to play. He's most likely doubtful to out. So, guy I wouldn't be looking to play. Now, this is against a very dangerous Jets defense. A Jets defense that's looking to build a culture, and a Jets defense that, is actually what I would say is probably a top 10 defense in the league. A team that I would say has to get a lot of respect. But, with an offense that has been extremely lackluster, specifically at the quarterback position. Something that's really held this team back, and I think we'll see a massive change come this offseason. Now, I think we're going to end up watching the Jets take this game over Miami. I think, I just don't see Miami, a team who's seemingly just hasn't had a lot of fire in them the last couple weeks. They've been on a 5-game losing streak, the same amount as the Jets, but the Dolphins have just looked abysmal game in and game out. They haven't looked like the Dolphins at the start of the season with Tua, so I don't know. I'm really going to have to go with the Jets here, especially in the even though this is in Miami.
And what a collapse this was for the Dolphins, because, they looked really good in the beginning of the season. Remember when Tua threw 6 touchdowns against Baltimore?
Yeah.
But, this is Tua's 3rd season, and something we've seen every year, his inability to stay healthy and be on the field for all 17 games. I go back and forth with Tua. I always thought he was going to be a bust, and then, he got Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle has been developing. They have a new head coach, and they look good. But I just think if he can't stay healthy, his career could be shorter than a lot of us think.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I'd just like to say that both of you guys are saying that the Dolphins' collapse has been crazy and everything, but the Jets' collapse to me has been even crazier. Because I thought that they were a Super Bowl contender at one point in the season.
I mean, they really did look that good. We saw Joe Flacco, be an early season's yard leader, a
And-
guy who was able to really help the Jets' offense move up and down the field, give the Jets' defense some breaks, and had their offense been better, I could argue, their defense being in the field a little less, they might even look better. And I would say that they probably have the defensive player of the year, what's it called, in Sauce Gardner. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me restart that. The rookie defensive player of the year in Sauce Gardner. I think this is going to be a guy who, especially coming in the future, warrants a lot of respect. A guy who obviously has to draw similarities and obvious comparisons to Darrelle Revis, being that Jets corner taken in the first round. So this is a guy I'm very hopeful for, a guy that we're going to watch win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I think it should be a cakewalk. So I'm excited for this.
So for the Dolphins, I think that they are going to easily beat the Jets. And let me just read off the Dolphins' last 5 opponents. The Patriots, the Packers, the Bills, the Chargers, and the 49ers. I think it's just creating this illusion that they're this awful team when they've only lost all these games by 6 points or less. And I think the Jets are losing to the Seahawks by 20 points. And all these other mediocre teams, I don't know.
So you think Skylar Thompson is going to beat Mike White?
Yes, I think Skylar Thompson is going to beat Mike White.
All right, Nick, what do you have for this game? Do you think the Dolphins are going to win or the Jets are going to win?
I've seen Skylar Thompson play in garbage time and filling for injuries. I think the Jets got this. I mean, Mike White is a more I wouldn't say experienced, but he has more playing time this season than Thompson, and they've got it. They have their offense, like with Skylar Thompson, a new quarterback coming in. They got to have a whole new offense revolved around him. And I don't really know his skill set, but I think the Jets could sneak this one.
All right. So now we're going to move on to our next game here. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, obviously, there's really no implication for this game. None of the teams in this, in the NFC South besides the Buccaneers are going to make the playoffs. That's already been locked up. Buccaneers have already clinched the division. None of the teams have an opportunity for a wild card. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think there's much worth talking about this game. I mean, do you guys want to just make picks and move on? Because I'm kind of okay with that.
I think that the Falcons are going to win this one because last week they should have just tanked too, and they didn't, and they won. So,
all right.
I think the Bucs will either not even play their starters or pull them early, and I think Ritter will be able to beat the Bucs backup team.
Honestly, I would love to see what the lines are going to be for this game, just because
the line is at -4.5 Falcons favor.
You know what?
So it's got to look like the Bucs aren't playing the starters.
Oh, there's no chance.
And for some reason, the Falcons are still trying.
Yeah, but I'm going to be honest with you. It feels stupid to take it, but I would love to see the Bucs win as an underdog. I just think it'd be funny. I think it'd also be nice to have a team go into the playoffs with a winning record rather than being 8-9, which honestly, every time I see a losing team make the playoffs, it just looks disgraceful to the entire league. Looks like they shouldn't be there. So I would like to see the Bucs, try to get a win here and really, really make a difference. Keep winning every game. All right. So now we're going to move on to our next game here. We have the Panthers Saints in the NFC South game. Another game that, I'll be honest with you, I don't care about. Do you get there's no playoffs here. It's two teams that are 6-10. They're literally just going to swap places in the draft. This is literally the most worthless game in the entire slate this whole weekend. So I was going to say, let's just make picks again and move on.
Could have been probably one of the best games if last week the Buccaneers didn't win.
No, I do agree with you. Could have been very exciting, but granted, it's just not gonna be. So, I'll be honest with you, boys. I'm gonna make this quick. I'm taking the Panthers. I know they're in New Orleans for this game, but I do think that the Panthers are gonna end up taking it. They've looked pretty good this last stretch of the season. They've actually been able to look a way more competent team since trading CMC, and I believe they fired Matt Rule.
The Saints are favored in this one, which is interesting. Well, they're home, so.
I mean, yeah, that's all it is. They're just the home favorite. These are two teams with the same record for the most part.
I mean, Panthers are 1-6 away. So if that.
No, they're 1-6 away. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So, hey,
and they've never played. They haven't played an indoor game this season, which is interesting.
I don't know. I kind of like all I like all this for the Panthers. I think we're gonna watch them do something.
Yeah.
So, what was that, 2 Panthers, Nick?
I think it's a toss-up. I'm just gonna go.
I'm going Saints.
I'm gonna go with the Panthers. Just why not? Sam Darnold to DJ Moore, deadly combo.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, although
Raheem Shaheed.
I may just be a salty
Enough
Eagles
said.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. They are coming off a good week, too.
I know. Good win against terrible Gardner Minshew. So now we're going to get into, our 10th game of the weekend. The Texans-Colts game, another game that doesn't have many implications here. Same division teams. These teams tied earlier in the year. They both fucking suck. Let's just be straight. These teams are garbage. They're the worst in the NFL. They're literally the scum of the scum. I don't know about you, Nick, but I don't care about this game. I wouldn't even bet on this game. I wouldn't even guess a winner because it is so worthless to even bother.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
I mean, you could pick a winner if you'd like, but you don't have to. I just, to me, I'm not doing anything. I think this game is dumb. Jack, do you have any comments on this?
I think that the Texans are going to win this game.
All right, he's taking somebody.
Wait, sorry, who are the Texans playing?
Colts.
Colts. All right, I didn't know who was playing or who you were talking about. I think I got the Texans. The Colts just suck. Nick Foles is hurt, but
This is because I'm salty about what Jeff Saturday said about Kayvon Thibodeau.
Actually, I changed my answer. I think the Colts. Where's the game?
It's in Indianapolis.
I got the Colts. I think Jeff Saturday and the boys will ride out the season on a win.
All right. Well, that being said, I mean, now that we have a tiebreaker, I'm gonna give it to the Texans. I think the Texans just have a little bit more momentum than the Colts. I think the Colts have looked like hot garbage, and especially after last week, they didn't even want to stick up for their quarterback against the New York Giants. A game that really wouldn't mean much for them besides to build some chemistry and really solidify some of those top dogs in that locker room. Like, I'll be honest with you, where the hell is Quentin Nelson? Why is he not bodying Kayvon Thibodeau after that play? You see your quarterback hurt, dying in pain on the ground, and you're not going to walk over to a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, a rookie, and, kind of put him in his place a little bit. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the energy's there in that locker room.
No, not at all. It seems very, very, very poor. But that's all right. That game doesn't mean much. So, two to the Texans, one to the Colts. Now we're going to move on to the Arizona Cardinals taking on the 49ers. In what's it called? In not Candlestick. I don't even know. Levi's, right?
Yeah.
Levi's Stadium. So what's it called? Cardinals are another team that's truly looked abysmal. I mean, they've had the new in-season Hard Knocks. The second season of this. Talking about them, and we've kind of seen them just collapse. They haven't been a team that has had much chemistry. Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury seem to have a massive issue with one another, and just their teams in general. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to really unlock this team. Especially, it's a sad thing to see for the end of J.J. Watt's career. A guy who, especially during our early childhood, a guy who was special to watch and really, helped build my love for football. It's going to be sad to see him walk away from the game like this, in what I'm going to assume is going to be a 49ers win. And this seems like a pretty easy 49ers win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 14-point spread. So, and the 49ers are home. I think it's a definite win for them also.
I think this might be Kingsbury's last game. I think he completely lost the locker room of the Cardinals, arguing with Kyler Murray on national television, arguing with, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. It's not a good look. They were, playoff-bound teams this year and last year and failed to make the playoffs both years. So, I don't know what's going on over there.
I would just like to say also that they released Eno Benjamin mid-season out of nowhere after he was doing well for them. And I don't know. There's something weird going on with that, too, that never came out.
No, I do agree. I mean, here's one of the things. There was a quote from Cliff Kingsbury, and I'm going to paraphrase the quote here, but it was him talking about how the Cardinals organization are not letting him, unlock his true potential with the team, which is something that I'll be honest with you, that's like the most garbage thing you can say. I mean, you're the head coach. You do what you got to do to win games. And Cliff Kingsbury has just been unable and to win games, and he's kind of looked inept. He's kind of looked like he just hasn't been all there for this team, and I do agree. I think something that he's lost is the locker room. Him and Kyler Murray constantly duking it out isn't good for the team. Now, granted, this is a team that could be much better next year, especially with another year of Marquise Brown, another year of D-Hop, another year of Kyler Murray, and hell, another year of James Conner. But I mean, they're gonna need a head coach to walk in there and really solidify this team.
I think Kingsbury will have. I don't think he'll have a problem finding another job elsewhere, but I just don't think Kyler Murray and him are a good match, and I think he could do. And Kyler Murray has been sort of a locker room distraction in some aspects, but I think he just needs a different quarterback to work with.
He just likes playing that Call of Duty too much. That's all it is, man.
That's right.
Man's a Call of Duty legend out here, But, being said, he is defeated on Call of Duty XP weekends. Another little stat to put out there. So if you're looking to gamble, especially against Kyler Murray, you might want to just look when Call of Duty's having a double XP weekend. Might come in handy sooner or later. But, obviously I think we're all in agreement here that the 49ers are going to, take the cake.
So when are we going to talk about the Chargers?
Well, we'll be getting there soon. We got 2 more games. First, we're going to talk about our NFC East games. Something that's going to really make this a very interesting game come, or 2 interesting games come this season. These are going to be 2 games that are, obviously going to decide what's going to be going on, in the NFC and in the NFC East. See who's going to lock up the division, lock up the possible 1 seed. So we'll first get into the Cowboys-Washington game. I think this will be an easy win for the Cowboys, especially a game that they know they need to win.
Agreed. And the Washington is starting a quarterback that hasn't seen an NFL snap yet. So Sam Howell's starting.
I have a feeling, Micah Parsons will have a day with this with this Washington team. I really don't foresee this Washington team being special. Ron Rivera seemingly, has been a little off his rocker. I mean, granted, this is a guy who's been a good head coach in the past, has really solidified some great teams, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of this. I don't think Washington has anything to say here. I think they're just looking to lose and move on, especially with the start of Sam Howell. So my vote's going to the Cowboys. I think Cowboys have an easy win, and see what happens coming up this week.
Yeah, I think they win easy. That's it. We'll see how Sam Howell plays. If he's a potential future piece for them, but I think the Cowboys will handle him pretty easily.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wish they just played Heineke. I don't know why.
Yeah,
he's kind of your guy.
They want to see what they have, and they're out of the playoffs already. It doesn't matter. They just want to see what they're working with.
No, that's true.
And against a good defense, it's a good time to see what you have.
I just love how bad Carson Wentz is. That shit makes me laugh every time. He's abysmally shit. But we'll move on to the next game, a game that's a little bit more important than the Cowboys-Washington game, as it not only decides the division, but decides who gets the 1 seed in the NFC, and it's going to be the New York Giants taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is something I'm extremely excited for, boys. I mean, come on, as this game is in the link, it's gonna be a very exciting game. We're really gonna get to see 2 teams, 2 playoff-bound teams really duke it out, see how this is gonna go. It's gonna be nice to have Jalen Hurts back in the mix, a team that has sorely been, missing their overall number 1 MVP level quarterback. And this is a guy who does totally transform his offense. Because I'll be honest with you, watching Gardner Minshew for the past couple weeks has been horrible. I mean, that's a game against Dallas that's very winnable. Has he, not turn over the ball 3 times? Make some poor handoffs, some poor decision making, throwing the ball. And I'll say the same thing in that game versus New Orleans. We're down 13-10, has the ball with about 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and he throws a pick 6. I mean, dude, he just looked horrible. So now it's gonna be nice to get our quarterback back. Watch him just do what he does best and just take over games, get those random 3rd downs. And I'm very excited for this game being in the link. I think it's a huge advantage for Philly. Obviously their fans hate the Giants, so it always makes it a very welcoming place for New York, obviously. So I'm very excited, boys. You got any thoughts on this game here?
I know that I said that I'm a Giants fan, but I am a professional, so if they're going to lose, they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose.
Very interesting.
I think they're gonna win. I can't go against them. They had their 1 game to figure out Jalen Hurts because they clearly couldn't stop him when they played at MetLife a couple weeks ago. But every year the Giants have made deep playoff runs. They get hot at the end of the regular season, and I think a win against the number 1 team in the NFL would definitely give them momentum going into the playoffs. And that's how I see it. We're getting healthy. Xavier McKinney's back, big piece of the defense. Defense has looked really good. And, Daniel Jones, Saquon, Dayball, they're making it work with, not the best roster, but
they're getting the job done.
They've got a game plan going.
So I'm going to be honest with you, as I talk about the Eagles, the one thing I've truly come to understand is that we've lost a couple key pieces, and getting this bye would not only help us get those key pieces back, but be the Philadelphia team we've been all year. We've been a lucky team who's really been able to avoid a lot of injuries. Really, a team who hasn't had too much adversity on that front. And obviously over the past, I want to say, 7 weeks, we've lost Lane Johnson, who will come back. We just having the first round bye gives him a lot of time. Really lets our Pro Bowl, all pro right tackle really step back into his lane. We also had earlier in the season C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a guy who's leading the league in picks, a guy we traded from the Saints. He's a very talented player, still leads the league in interceptions at 6, tied with Justin Simmons, and he's only played 11 games. So this is a guy I'm very excited to come back into the lineup, really shore up that secondary, and this helps make the Eagles' defense very dangerous, especially, this is just what we need. And, another guy coming back off the IR will be Robert Quinn. Obviously, he hasn't done too much this season, but still just to have some more depth there with Josh Sweat being out most likely a little bit longer term, I think this will truly help. So now we're going to move on. After the clean sweep by the Eagles, we'll talk about the Chargers-Broncos game. Now, if I am correct, does this game have any playoff implications for the Chargers? If they win this game, can they move up into the 4th seed?
How the Chargers are seeded.
I believe it does. I believe it allows them to move up into the 4th seed with a win. As they'll, if the Ravens lose and the Chargers win, it looks like they can move up a spot. Do you have anything to say about that? I'm sorry. I thought you had a point you wanted to make. I apologize.
No, I just love the Chargers. I think they're going to go on a run this year.
No, that works. Okay.
Yeah.
Nick, you have anything to say about the Chargers-Broncos game?
Yeah, so I just think Week 18, last week of the season, everything is always so unpredictable every time. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. I think getting rid of Hackett has just, I feel like the players weren't getting along with his schemes and everything. And all this Russell Wilson support I've been seeing from, people like Jerry Jeudy and all the receivers, I think they're just going to go out and give a little preview of what to expect next season. Chargers, I think, they can make a run in the playoffs, but just for the last week of the season, I think the Broncos have some more to play for.
You know what? I'll join you with this one. I think the Broncos have a chance. Little Russell Wilson revitalization. See if he can actually get this team back together. See what can happen without Nathaniel Hackett and what this team. This might be a preview, right, of what this team looks like moving forward.
You people are crazy. I think that the Broncos are the worst team in the NFL. Even worse than the Texans. If the Texans played them right now, I think the Texans would win.
See, my thing is,
and they have nothing to play for. The Chargers at least have something. The Broncos could go out there with their backups. You don't know.
But in division matchup, they're going to want to play spoiler, definitely, just to whatever worsen their rivals' odds,
It is actually -2.5 Denver, but
is it really?
I really, I think the Chargers. Maybe this doesn't matter as much for the Chargers.
I don't know. That's actually a good point, but we'll see how that game goes on moving forward. Obviously, I don't think it's not a huge game for us NFC East fans, so I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not all too worried about it at the current moment. So we'll move on to our next game here. A team. We got two more games left, and then we're gonna move on to our next segment here. So we're gonna see the Rams take on the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Now, this is a huge playoff implication game. Where we could either see Seattle just win. If they win this game, it's winning in no matter what. And this is a team like Seattle that no one really expected to do well. We've seen Geno Smith, become a Pro Bowl quarterback, something that no one ever thought would happen. And I'll be honest with you, I like the Seahawks momentum, but I have a feeling that the Rams might be another team who gets to play spoiler this weekend.
So you're going with the Rams?
I'm gonna go with the Rams, and that's because we've seen them beat up on some teams like the Denver Broncos, and we've seen them recently been able to actually move the ball effectively. Although Baker Mayfield isn't necessarily the best player in the world or anything like that. We've seen Tyler Higbee and guys like Cam Akers really just come out of the woodwork and help this team, kind of do something late and actually look like a semi-respectable team. And I think there's a lot to be said for that in what's called Sean McVay's game plan here.
I mean, they beat the Broncos 51-14, but
embarrassed them. But I
think Seattle is winning this game.
Okay.
I also think Seattle will win. I like Baker and I like how Akers has been playing, but the receivers, just too dysfunctional in that offense right now.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. If the Seahawks win, now I believe that both the Lions and the Packers are out, and this is our next game, correct?
No, the
No,
Packers
no
actually
matter
control
what.
their own destiny. So if the Packers win, they are
Ah.
in. I think the Seahawks have to win and Detroit has to lose for Seattle to make the playoffs. I believe.
Yeah, because they're all fighting for the one
I'm
spot.
sorry. I think the Seahawks kind of got screwed. They're beneath the Packers and
They
the
need
Lions
the
in the
Lions to
division.
win. They need the Lions to win.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Okay, I think you are right. I don't think they're at the total bottom of this.
I think they might be because I thought I heard that the Packers and Lions is a win and in
It's
situation for
whoever wins in that game makes the playoffs. It doesn't matter.
and
None
that's
of
the
other
fine. Yeah,
games
so
matter.
the Seahawks.
Yeah, it doesn't have
the
any
Seahawks are
effect.
eliminated. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, the
they are?
Seahawks probably just aren't in the playoffs.
Ah.
Yeah, I think they'll win the game anyway. But yeah, I think this actually might not. This might be meaningless.
Oh, so okay. I'm still going with the Rams. Fuck it. It'll be keep it interesting. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our last game of the slate here, and probably one of the most exciting games is gonna be the Green Bay Packers versus the Detroit Lions, and this is in Green Bay. Obviously, a huge boost to Green Bay being in Green Bay, and there's a team who, as of late, has been really hot. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who consistently owns his division, consistently gets the job done against his division. I have a hard time seeing the Green Bay Packers not win this game, and once again walk themselves into the playoffs and give themselves an opportunity to win that Lombardi.
I think the Packers are going to win on a field goal, as every Detroit Lions game comes down to the last possession. And that is my opinion. I think the Packers are going to also go far this year.
Rodgers said it once a couple years ago, and he said it again this year. They're running the table. They've won out the last couple games of their season multiple times under Aaron Rodgers. I think they win this game, and I hope to see them play beyond the wild card round, but we'll see.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm somebody who went out there and said Dan Campbell is going to be my head coach of the year candidate. I thought he was more of a dark horse for the job, but someone I thought who can get the job done. And he's done a great job coaching this Lions team, really, coaching them up, helping them get to a winning place. And now, do I think the Lions are going to pull this game out? I think there's a lot of reasons to say no. I think when you're going up against a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it just makes it a hell of a lot more difficult to win, even if you are a guy like Dan Campbell, a guy who's really been able to get his team on the same page, his team together, and fight together. Now, I think moving forward, we're going to see the Detroit Lions become a lot better, a team that we're going to really see start to take over the division a little bit in the near future, because especially with a guy like 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 Dan Campbell, I think we're going to have a lot of success here in the future. But I'm going Packers. I'm going Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to root against them. It's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers.
Of course. And just one more thing. The Lions are going to have to deal with Jair Alexander, who completely locked up Justin Jefferson for just a catch and 15 yards last week. So if he's following around Amon-Ra St. Brown, he might have some trouble, and that whole offense might have trouble.
Jair Alexander also gave up 39 fantasy points to Justin Jefferson the other week they played. I think a lot of it was because it wasn't at 1 o'clock, and Kirk Cousins is just bad when it's not at 1 o'clock. So,
yeah, Kirk Cousins is kind of one of the craziest quarterback anomalies in all of football. I mean, he just fucking sucks at any other time that's not 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So the last thing I want to say about this Lions game is that, you bring up a good point, Nick. Jair Alexander's been a good player. And Jack, you bring up a good point how, he hasn't been the best player all season. Cornerbacks can be shaky. Even the best ones in the league, they don't have to have the best weeks. Detroit's a team that's been able to, no matter what week it is, offensively get the job done. I don't think offense is going to be an issue. I think this game is going to be more or less a shootout, because these are two teams that are going to have to score a lot of points. And Aaron Rodgers, he can do it. He can score a lot of points. Now, we're probably going to see the Green Bay Packers take a lot more time of possession, something that they're more built to do than than the Detroit Lions. But I could see this being a very tight game. Come down to a field goal, like we said before. So I think we have a clean sweep for the Packers and what could be a close but high scoring game. So now that's actually our first segment here. We're gonna finish that up. That's nice and easy. So now we're gonna move on to our Super Bowl favorites, boys. I don't know about you, but as an Eagles fan, obviously I have Philadelphia as my Super Bowl favorite. Just because I think, being top of the NFC East, having a quarterback who is been in the MVP discussion the entire year, I think we've kind of unlocked something more than what we had last year. We picked up a Pro Bowl receiver who's really played out of his mind for us and has truly helped elevate this team in A.J. Brown, a defense who, with the lack of trust in this defensive line at the beginning of the season, especially from people who were a little skeptic like myself, this is the first team in NFL history to have 4 players have 10 plus sacks on the same roster. Now, granted, we're probably going to see Josh Sweat out for some of the playoffs, if not all of the playoffs, due to that neck injury, but that does leave us with Hassan Reddick. It does leave us with Fletcher Cox. It does leave us with Brandon Graham. It leaves us with not Linval Joseph. I'm sorry. It's I'm thinking about the whole line. I mean, guys like Javon Hargrave. It's really going to help out in here. And with our well-welcomed additions back, and hopefully Lane Johnson and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, this team is only going to get better. And I think they really have a great chance here to go out there and win the Super Bowl, especially against an NFC that looks kind of little top heavy. NFC that seemingly, it doesn't feel like there's any true superstar quarterbacks in the NFC this year. It feels like if there is one, it's going to emerge this year. Anybody else have a take on who their Super Bowl favorite is?
Well, my Super Bowl favorite is obviously the New York Giants, but if I'm going to give you a more realistic answer, I'm going to say the Cincinnati Bengals. I think, Joe Burrow has unfinished business losing last year, and they've just got such an elite offense. The defense steps up when it needs to. And, I just think a huge part of the playoffs is quarterback play. And I think Joe Burrow's leadership and mentality will get him back to the Super Bowl, and I think he'll win. I think I'm a big Patrick Mahomes guy. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL right now. But just when you look at the overall teams, I think the Bengals can get through Kansas City and, win it all.
Now, I think that the best team's the 49ers, but the only problem is the quarterback position, and we don't know what that's going to look like in playoff.
It's going to be very interesting to see the first Mr. Irrelevant make the playoffs, and really, he's been pretty decent this year on what is a loaded roster.
It really doesn't even matter. Their team is so good that he doesn't need to do much.
That is true.
So I don't know how far that'll take them, though. I do think it's going to be Bengals from the AFC and then 49ers from the NFC in the Super Bowl. But I think the 49ers are going to end up winning the Super Bowl.
On that note, I actually do want to say something. A early, favorite to see walk into the Super Bowl matchup was going to be the Bills and the Eagles. The Bills are a team who has constantly made the AFC championship game, and they're playing the Chiefs. They're a team who's very much been in contention to make a Super Bowl, and I want to root for them, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm gonna go Chiefs Eagles come Super Bowl time. I think this is gonna be an Andy Reid matchup against the Eagles, something nobody's really talked about, and something I'd be very excited to see come playoff time. A really great story, a guy who's done a lot of good for Philadelphia. Hopefully, he can do some more good for Philadelphia, and hopefully the Eagles will, take the cake and win the Super Bowl here. Nick, do you have an NFC pick by chance? Are you going with the Giants for your NFC pick?
I would, if I'm given another realistic answer, this is a tough one. I think I'd got to go with the 49ers, but, Aaron Rodgers is there. Who knows what the Giants will do? I want to say the Cowboys, but they're going to choke.
The NFC is completely up for grabs. The AFC, I feel like we have more of an idea of who's going to be.
It seems like we have 3 teams in the AFC who are
and
then
really
the
NFC is kind of just like, Nick was right. Like the Giants, they could
anybody.
beat any of the teams.
I mean, hell, the craziest thing about the NFC is that we have guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers just sitting in the rafters of this playoffs, they don't even exist. Like guys who really can do a lot of damage come playoff time, and no one's really talked about. Now this is looking kind of similar to the way Tom Brady barely made the playoffs the year they won the Super Bowl. I mean, they were a better team. I think we can all agree they were a little bit. I believe their record was like 10-6, but this is a team that, no matter what, I can't. There's 2 guys in the NFL I can never count out, and one being Bill Belichick, the other's Tom Brady. I'm sorry, but I think those are 2 guys who, no matter what, are the best in their respective positions in the game, and it's something that's really been pretty special pretty special for the league to get to watch. So,
the last time that the Giants won the Super Bowl, what was their record? 9-7.
Yep, they were a wild card team.
And look at them now.
That's what I'm saying. All you gotta get is into the dance. All right, so our last segment here, we're gonna move on to our Super Bowl underdogs. So this is really more the teams that are lower seeded, teams that might just barely make the playoffs, teams who have kind of that 9-7 to anything kind of lower than that record, teams who are wild card teams, barely winning their divisions. So, I'll be honest with you guys. I know who I'm taking. I'm taking Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. This is just a team that can be very dangerous, a team that I think will beat Dallas. And, if they beat Dallas, it's going to be interesting to see how they play against Philadelphia. They're going to be on that side of the bracket if Philadelphia does get the 1 seed. And it's a team that no matter what, it's going to be dangerous. They're a team that, with Tom Brady can get it done. They do have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, 2 phenomenal receivers. And their defense, although not as much this year, has been able to step up and make a lot of big plays and really, help that offense stay on the field. And Tom Brady's best way to win is by just, taking long possessions, something that kills teams like Philadelphia. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Tom Brady does here in the upcoming playoffs.
I went kind of a similar route. I said the Packers for kind of the same reasons. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they both know how to handle themselves in the playoffs. So I think that the Packers, if it wasn't the 49ers in the NFC, would make the Super Bowl.
All right.
And this is where I go ahead and say the New York Giants. I think they're getting hot at the right time, and we've seen this before from players like Eli Manning, Ahmad Bradshaw, Brandon Jacobs, Plaxico Burress, Victor Cruz. We've seen it before. The receiving core right now is not nearly as good as it was in
Dog
the
shit.
other Super Bowl
Besides
years.
Isaiah Hodgins.
Besides Isaiah Hodgins. But while their receivers might not be highly as skilled, they still play an important role, and they revolve their game. They're involved in the game plan. So teams won't really know what they're getting out of people like Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins. And when, you have Saquon, you have Daniel Jones, who has been killing it as of the last couple weeks, both through the air and on the ground. They could be a huge wild card, very unpredictable. And, defense is clicking too. They're, I'd say, the strong point of their whole team. And I would love to see them make a run.
You know what? I'm not going to lie. I always do like watching any team but the Cowgirls really put on a run here. And, I think that the Giants do have an opportunity with how well Daniel Dimes has played. He hasn't looked like Danny Nichols this year. He's actually been pretty efficient, keeping up his dime status. So, I think with Brian Dable, they might be able to catch a win this playoffs. I don't know how far they'll make it, but I think I could watch them get a win and, in a respectable way. So, I'd like to thank the 2 guests I have on today, Jack and Nick. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. This was fun.
Yes, sir.
No, of course, anytime. We're always trying to expand our network of idiots here on the Idiots Football Show.
I'm glad to be a new idiot.
Thank you.
A Dewey.
Yeah, it was nice being back. We're out here.
All right. Well, what's it called? From us here at the studio, we'd really like to thank you, viewers, for tuning in this week. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the Idiot Squad here. And I'll leave you with one thing: Go Birds.